Hey, good morning. Pastor Sargent here. This is episode number 2 of Morning Momentum. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode where we talked about starting out on the right foundation. I've already got a lot of feedback and very excited about this. Today we're going to talk about tuning up your priorities. The importance of having the right priorities in our lives cannot be overstated. It's very, very important that we have the right priorities. I grew up in farming country, grew up in Idaho, and back in those days, it wasn't that long ago, I'm only 29, 30, somewhere around there. Back in those days, we had about 12, 13 acres that we released out to the various farmers. We didn't farm it ourselves, and these farmers would come in with their tractors and their combines, and they would till up the ground, they would form the rows, they would do all that. But back in the old days, long before I even existed, back in the early days of farming, when everyone was doing their plowing with mules, a farmer always prided himself on having a straight row. You could stand at the end of his field and look down the row of grain, cotton, alfalfa, whatever it was, and the rows were perfectly straight. After the Dust Bowls, however, of the 1930s, along came the soil conservation districts that were established, and the farmers were shown how to terrace their land in order to prevent erosion, and this thing called contour farming was established, and it kind of did away with straight rows for a spell. The story is told that in the early 20th century, there was a young new landowner that moved into the community. He started farming a large section of land, and it was apparent that this was his first try at farming, as the rows in his field were not very straight. One day, while he was visiting with a neighboring farmer, the young man asked, "How in the world do you get your rows so straight?" "It's easy," said the old farmer. "You pick out an object at the opposite end of the field from where you start, such as a tree or a fence post. Line it up between the ears of your mule and go straight to it." "I think I'll try that," said the young farmer. He thanked the farmer, the old man, and he left. The next week on his way to town, the old farmer passed the young man's fields, and he looked at the field to see if the young man had taken his advice on plowing a straight row. But instead of being straight, each row curved to the right. It was kind of like a rainbow. It just curved to the right. When he saw the young man in town, the farmer asked him about the curve in his rows. "Well, I followed your advice," said the young farmer. "When I started, I spotted a cow in the pasture at the opposite end of the field, and I lined that cow up between the ears of my mule, and I plowed straight to her, and that's just how the road turned out." The old farmer laughed and said, "You know what? The cow you line up with was grazing in the pasture and constantly moving as she grazed. You got to line things up with something that doesn't move." There's a powerful lesson here, I think, for each of our lives here this morning. If you want to end up in the right place, you need to keep your eyes focused in the right direction and on the right things. We live in such a rapidly changing society that's filled with so much uncertainty, and in times like these, we've got to secure our focus on a God that does not change, an unchanging God. Doesn't the scripture say he's the same yesterday, today, and forever? He doesn't change. He's secure. He's solid. He's steadfast. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18 in the New Living Translation kind of articulates what I'm trying to say this morning. It says, "So we don't look at the troubles that we can see now. Rather, we fix our gaze on things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever." In the rush of modern life, it's easy to lose sight of our priorities or live our lives even with misplaced priorities. Under pressure, we tend to focus on the urgent, but not always on the important. So it's good to be reminded occasionally of our priorities as the people of God. German writer Johann Wolfgang von Goethe said this, Things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least. The Bible tells the story of two sisters, one by the name of Martha, one by the name of Mary. They were loyal friends of Jesus. And when Jesus would visit them, they wanted to serve him in the way that each considered was most important. Let's kind of pick up the story here for a moment in Luke chapter 10. A certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house, and she had a sister called Mary who also sat at the feet of Jesus and heard his words. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she approached him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to help me." And Jesus answered and said to her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen that good part, which will not be taken away from her." You know, I think some of us tend to be more like Mary in our Christian walk, while others probably resemble Martha. It's likely we all have qualities of both in us. We may be inclined at times to let our busy lives of service distract us from spending time with Jesus and reading and listening to his word and starting our mornings the way that we should. It's significant to note that Jesus gently admonished Martha not for her service. He admonished her because she was worried and troubled. She was upset. Service is a good thing, but sitting at the feet of Jesus is even better. We've got to remember what's most important. We've got to keep our priorities right. Henry David Thoreau said it this way: "It's not enough to be busy, so are the ants." The question is, what are we busy about? That's why Jesus would say in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, "But seek first the kingdom of God," that's priority, "and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Our good works, the things we do, should flow from a Christ-centered life, but they do not produce a Christ-centered life. And as we endeavor to become more like Jesus, as we endeavor to become the person that he wants us to be, we've got to find ourselves doing what he designed us to do. I hope that you're enjoying Morning Momentum. Make sure you share this. Like, comment below in the field. The field's below, right somewhere down there. I'll put a link right here on YouTube. So glad you're joining us. May you have a blessed day. And remember, keep your priorities right. Let's do everything God is asking us to do. Till tomorrow, God bless.